screen, and now I'm going to go back over, and we've just increased it by about 5,000 more people. So I hope everybody's having a good time right now. And the only reason I'm doing this is I want to illustrate how easy it is for me. Like, if I can come up here and share my opinions, you certainly have different opinions that you could share with your sphere for you to make things better with all like the difficulties that we have in front of us, but it's also going to help your business. And these two things can work simultaneously. Understand this, like you benefiting professionally and personally and helping your community, they all go hand in hand right now. They really do. There's a built-in inherent understanding that anything that's technology is going to be better, faster, and cheaper, isn't it? Now, technology used to be its own standalone industry. You know, there was the service industry, there was a medical industry, there's all these different industries. But what technology became is a disruptor into all different industries. And what we saw early on is Jeff Bezos and all you guys up here in the Pac Northwest is you could go buy a book for 15% off, get it 2 days later, and it certainly made it cheaper. It made it very convenient. Faster, that's up for debate, but kind of the idea, it was a really great thing to do. Killing strip malls all across the country right now. But is it always better, faster, and cheaper if we have technology? It just depends on the industry, but we have a built-in inherent bias that's always the case. See, here's how I kind of see this whole thing right now. Technology, as we use it as consumers, it's a consumable for all of us, isn't it? Like technology is. We get online, what do we do when we go online? What do? We waste time, but what we do is we consume information, don't we? Do we create information? There's 0.1% of people who create information or content. 99.9% of people consume information. They consume content. Like, my God, I would have never found this place if it wasn't for Waze. I mean, seriously, I would have never found this place in this rainstorm. I'm like, am I really going the right way? And that's an example of technology being really effective for us, right? And we look at this, and what we do is, you know, all right, politics aside, but I just got to use this one example. Do you remember a guy named Glenn Beck? Yeah. So Glenn Beck used to say shit that made perfect sense. Like, it's like, that's really smart. That's really thoughtful. That's very interesting. At least for me, and please don't get mad at me either way. And I'm like, that's really interesting that you would say that. And then the fourth thing he would say would be like, whoa, like what? Like just insane. But the thing is steps 1, 2, and 3 that you agreed with would position you to agree with step 4, which was absolutely absurdity. And that's, I kind of think, like what that business model is all built on, is like enough truth, and crazy. And I think that people kind of go along with that whole thing. And I think that we're doing the same thing in terms of technology. I think we just take the idea and we have a horizontal move to everything is going to be better for this. And all of these technology companies understand this. They totally do, and they're working this against us. They're doing it to our detriment. But technology companies are basically asset brokers, and asset brokers are middlemen. Remember early on in the whole thing, I used the example, of Amazon buying a book, but remember Fandango. There's no reason you can't go to AMC and go get a ticket, but I can go to Fandango and get a ticket. All Fandango has done is take money out of the pocket of AMC or your local, here's my term, operative term, your local movie theater. And Yelp, by the way, here's my thing. I travel all the time. I want to find the best food. I've had conversations with half of this room right now about like great food in different areas. But if you dial that number from Yelp, do you realize that Yelp is going to take 10% of the profits from that local business when I could go there and just go get it? Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but the highest rated food place ever on Yelp it was a place in Seattle. It was a place in Seattle called Paseo. It was a Cuban sandwich. It was called Paseo. And I went there and I stood in line and I hated it. I hated everything about it. And then I ate that sandwich on the hood of my car. I'm like, damn, they got it right. Seriously, it's that good. But what you're doing is you're taking money out. What you're doing is you're taking money out of a local business and you're sending it to a centralized area. But do you notice as we start to trend in this direction, over the years, we have decided to take a bigger piece of bigger industries. The one that really got me was Carvana. And this is when I use cars too. I'm like, my God, they're an asset broker. And I started looking at everything, but they're an asset broker. But what have we done since Carvana? We have OfferPad, Opendoor, and Zillow, which is the pinnacle. And by the way, if you think Zillow's going anywhere, you're nuts. So what we've done is we've started with something as simple as a $9.95 book, and we've gone, it's not enough. They wanted to be everything. Absolutely everything. The buyer, the seller, the buying agent, the selling agent, the lender, the title, the escrow. And even like what we're doing with appraisals right now, who do you think owns the automated valuation models that Fannie and Freddie are using right now to determine the prices on all houses? What's that? Rocket has a hand in it. Zillow has a hand in it. It's all the same players. So when we look at our industry, and by the way, I know this is like really coming across negative and miserable, but just trust me, we're gonna turn the corner here in a minute. So when we look at our industry, like in terms of what we're going to do to pivot to make the right moves going forward, what are we going to do, and who's the biggest apex predator in our market? We would all assume it would be Rocket Mortgage, and I would say no. It's the fintech companies. Why is it the fintech companies? Because they will send me all their information on all their transactions. I want you to look at this real quickly. This is a closing statement from OfferPad. Remember TRID? What was that, like $5 billion? Why do they not have to follow TRID? Seriously, why don't they have to follow? If you're off by $10, you have to print, write, send a check that's going to cost you more than $10 to that person. Why are they allowed to do this type of shit? Oh, so anyways, this one's OfferPad, but let's get to the nitty gritty. And by the way, I do understand the changes. We'll talk about that. Opendoor. These are all closing statements based on what you just looked at here. Check this out. These are closing statements. They're not TRID compliant. Opendoor, $19,434. It's called an experience charge. Bucks, that's called an SCRB repairs. What is that? I mean, by the way, is it repairs on the house? Maybe. I mean, that seems reasonable. Seller credit, right? Maybe. This one seems to kind of almost make sense. Like a real estate agent in this country right now are in the middle of a class action lawsuit for charging on average 5.05%, 5.08%. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a bad deck in the backyard. I don't know. But here's the one I can't reconcile. Opendoor market risk fee, $5,000. Yeah, this market's pretty risky. I'm gonna have to charge you $5,000.
A destination charge in a car.
Right. And by the way, I want to be very, very crystal clear on this thing. This is a transaction that actually closed, and it was the seller of a property who said that. Or is 7.5%, we add 11 on top of that, do the math on it, 7.5, I don't know, 12, 13? 13% in there. Now, $700. I mean, I've seen some people with some jacked up credit. Have you ever had a credit repair bill for $5,700?
For a seller?
Yeah, have you? Yeah. And then we go down here. Why is it possible that these guys can run roughshod with the rules and regulations that you so ardently have to follow, and they can play, they can run loose and fast with? Well, we can look to our regulators. We can look to the Inmate Financial Protection. Okay, the great thing is you don't have to make this stuff up because this is more important than consumers. Well, all right, hold on, just real quickly. Then let's not call them the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Let's think about these terms. We have weaponized words, haven't we? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I am the bureau to protect, you're killing them, well, but I am the I'm the bureau to protect unicorns. Words can be used so flippantly, it's ridiculous and manipulate. So I can only assume that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a bureau that's there to protect consumers' finances. That's the idea. Now, this is from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which the second most powerful person in the world is not the vice president. It is the head of the CFPB. And what we can't get into is how we have created an opportunity for government agencies to go ahead and work with each other and share information. And the CFPB has all the information on everybody. But anyways, so here's what they say. We're aiming to fulfill the statutory mandate, the congressional statutory mandate, creating policies and sandbox through which we reduce potential barriers to innovation. Okay, so sandbox, the whole sandbox rules come from Arizona. And the idea behind the sandbox rules, the idea is like if you build like a sandcastle, you can kick it over and you can build another one up again. So sandbox rules are, we can go ahead and we can put policies in place that don't work, we can kick them over and try something else. The problem with sandbox rules when it comes to an agency and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is that sandcastle that you're building is built on people, citizens of our country. And we can go ahead and mislead them and kick it over and try again. And trust me, I'm going to verify this point in a moment here. But creating policies and sandboxes through which we reduce potential barriers to innovation. Here's what I try to do. By the way, I'm not really great with my finances. I mean, I spend money on stuff I shouldn't do. Me and my wife, honestly, we go to the store like 4 days, 5 days a week. It becomes date night. When you have 3 kids, it's date night. Seriously. Do we need eggs? We'll go there to get half and half, and like we'll come back. It's like, do that. I'm allowed to make my own bad decisions. I don't need help from a government agency that is newly minted just less than a decade ago. Okay, so let me prove it to you. Again, I don't need to make this stuff up. I want you guys to read this stuff closely here. This is what the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is doing with people who are working against you on loans right now. Such permission may get sued. The Bureau may deem to be in compliance with or exempt from to be in compliance with or exempt from. You're either telling the truth or lying. A person can be either telling the truth, doesn't matter. A requirement or enumerated, or maybe as a rule of enumerated consumer law. Similarly, although Bureau rules must provide for public disclosure of the trial with your personal finances is more important than protecting your finances, and this is coming directly from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We are going to lie to you, we are going to mislead you because the greater good matters. And I don't know about you. My kids to be okay. My kids are trying to do the right shit right now. I don't like this. Like, this really bothers me. And when you hide this behind something called a bureau that's going to of innovation, and it came from the sandbox rules, and here's the sandbox rules. And by the way, the sandbox rules, they all started in the state of Arizona. Here's the Arizona sandbox rules. And the first person to run the, in short, my friends, the fix is in. So when I talk about this and I say, okay, now hold on, Zillow, open technology. First, your marketing second, your compliance in there, your retention, like all these things, and then technology first, and their mortgage fifth, fourth. They're like Zillow, Open Door. They assume because Einstein, and by the way, I'm so proud of this. My 14-year-old daughter told me this. She goes, you know, it was like Einstein saying, you know, can a fish climb a tree? Industry. So what happened is we see Zillow, which they're suffering the consequence of this right now, and it's going to get even worse. They are a fish who can't climb a tree because mortgage is fourth or fifth in terms of what they're doing. Mortgage is first in what you're doing. This is the fatal flaw that nobody's really make you understand that there's not a uniform residential mortgage market across the country. But we do have to be concerned about Zillow. Why? Well, first of all, when we look at, and you know, people said, well, Zillow was programmer costs. Like, there's one thing we have in common. Like, 20 years old, needs pizza pockets, and still has sits all day long. So this is from Zillow's third quarter earnings from 2021. Offers their revenues. Zillow offers revenues divided by the number of units that they have to determine how much the average cost of a house was that Zillow had. So Zillow's going % when they don't have to pay for real estate agents because they're spending money in different areas. Where is the money that they're spending? Well, I can show you exactly where it is. If we look over in the footnotes from the same earnings report, what they say is over the expense period presented with the associated account expenses, headcount expense, that's called an employee. I looked it up. So basically, we have to offset it in terms of the people who actually work for us. It's called a headcount expense. I'm going to start using all these great terms in my office too. I swear to God, nobody will understand me. But that's what it is. And look at this one. And the cost associated with hosting Their website, Zillow, 2.5 billion views. So they don't really understand what their business model is, do they? Like Zillow would be like, they should go into the used car industry. What they shouldn't do is they shouldn't say, okay, because we understand how to market. Now, if we think Zillow is the worst corporate or company out there right now, I think I just told you what was going on with Realtor.com. We don't need to go into this, but they just inked a partnership, much to the begrudging nature of what's going on with real estate agents. So what can we do? Here's the whole thing. We looked at this before. Everything this together, I had this whole thing kind of built out. And really, if you look at your business personally and you keep everything small, you guys are going to find a way to succeed. After all, what's a really great business right now? Like, how many deals a month do you close? Who closes more than 5 deals a month on a regular basis? Don't lie. Don't lie. 10. 15. I can look you up. Okay? But when we... Oh, by the way, here's an Australian man right now. He 100 years old, and he knits sweaters for a penguin. He's 100 years old. Isn't that the cutest thing in the world? He's the oldest man. You can only hope to be that guy. Okay, so a segment of mortgage lenders, independent mortgage bankers and brokers, are held to a lower standard, or held to a higher standard, going to be down 33% for the year 2022. End of this year. It doesn't have to be, by the way. Do you know that 40% of the people in this country right now still have a rate over 4%? And one of the big things going on right now is people are looking at, like, there's a bunch of great opportunities right now for you in refinances if you want to go down that road. And you certainly should. It's kind of like deal with refinances, keep it small in Sacramento. And we talk about like all the different programs and products that are offered by lenders, and we say, hey, let's keep this stuff in your own personal ecosystem. And this is exactly what I'm not looking for. But here's the whole thing. I think over the past couple of years, we've walked away from our realtor partners. Re-engaging them right now, this stuff sucks. An hour a day with knowing you, I am steps ahead of your competition, because this is going to be, see, like I said, it's an all-time low. 2022, Alex says rates are saying this.
Oh, I've been saying that too. Right here.
Right on. Here's the reason why. COVID hysteria and China are the two reasons. And they don't have anything to do with each other. It's not like the COVID thing with China. When we look at Evergrande and we look at, so this is a very interesting point. So Evergrande is the largest commercial and residential builder in the history of the world. In the history of the world. They are currently in the middle of construction on enough properties to cover 2/3 of Manhattan right now that are unfinished, and they're broke. They're broke. China are going crazy right now. And I had a conversation with a friend. Germany is going to come by and large to the ones. The other part of this that nobody's talking about is we have painted ourselves in a corner right now. We need to have higher rates right now because we're printing so much money. We need to put in our purchasing power. So if we have rates go up to anything that remotely looks going on in China right now, this is really quite remarkable what's taking place right now. So here, and I'm going to finish this whole thing up here. We have to go micro. So what can you do to make things effective for your personal business? After all, these are all macro problems, right? Well, ever mistaken me for George Clooney. Never happened. Sorry. I'm going to sit here and tell you to become a Facebook hound. But like this group right here, Garage Sales, 13,000 people. Those are 13,000 people that don't know me. In fact, we just redid, I have a relationship with every multiple listing system in the country, including your horrible smart televisions in the country. I own it. I mean, I'm a member of Fortnite free of charge. And you can do that too locally, or dog nuts. Like just dog nuts. I don't have a kid, my dog's my kid. There's more dog nuts. I see you're like, I don't want to raise my, are you a dog nut?
Dogs are nicer than kids.
Weeks after I was out here, we were sitting down having a conversation about this. How do we support small businesses who are trying to keep the doors open? Remember that? During the toilet paper epidemic right around that time? So she opened up a site called Solano County Small Businesses. Let's help. I've got a database of it doesn't matter. Businesses that started creating. It didn't cost her anything. It took a matter of consideration. So what can you do? All right. So who feels like they can't shoot a video? I am not. Seriously. Like people like you for you. They just. I've learned this the hard way, and trust me, I've had a lot of bumps over 15 years. But people like you for who you are. They see you for who you are. You know, a camera doesn't put 15 pounds on you. That's what you look like right there. But people like you for who you are. Like, we all have our ecosystems. We do. And this is how we beat like the big conglomerates out there, because they can't go small. For some reason they do, right? And that's not a bad thing. So what do we shoot videos about? If you and she made everything smooth. We had a couple of things that could have gone sideways. She was like, somebody corrected problems. The only person who outshined her. And boy, we put these people in this house, and I like my industry. I just think it's kind of cool that I got to meet all these. I just want to tag every real estate agent who hates that real estate agent that you're working with. Because then they're going to be, why would he talk about her like that, not me like that? It really is. Like, real estate is like a playground in 8th grade. And what we do is we shoot these videos and we just put everybody on a pedestal. Why wouldn't you? It's easy enough to do. And if you can take your emotions out, something, if you can, mean it. Right? Okay, so to prove my point, because everything that I'm saying is really great theoretically unless I can prove it. So what I did when I literally came in here is I chose to just go snapshot my last 5 lives. I do a live every day, okay? So and you can see I'm just in my office. If you've seen my show, I've got great editing. I mean, our show is really fantastic, but this is not my show. This is just going live. What I'll do is I'll just hit live and do it like I'm doing right now. So I had 17 comments and 3 shares. That's okay. By the way, when was the last time you had 800 conversations at the end of the day? Here's the next one. I had 71 shares. I had 71 real estate and lenders who said, I want to share this with my ecosystem. That means I was able to penetrate 71 other databases of people that I don't know that's talking about my day in and day out stuff. In the mortgage industry, it's well thought out. Here's 9 shares. And then here's 448 shares. And then when we look at this, on that 1 share alone, I had 36,512 when I've got 1 foot out the door. That's pretty close to a baseball or a basketball stadium full of people every day of the week. So coming up here to speak with you guys, is it the best use of my time? It takes me a couple of days. Not really, but and your best asset is, and I want you guys to understand this is like the most important thing ever, is that if I can do it, you can do it. Because I promise you, there is nothing extraordinary about like me at all, or anything that we do. I'm just consistent at doing it. I just don't miss things. I just don't miss them. Sometimes, the Beatles wrote a bad song, right? but there's been a show for 15 years, and as a result of that, it's worked out. Oh, and I threw this in here at the end. Here's Monica Jones. She's a fantastic loan officer. She was so nervous, she wouldn't do a video alone. 34 views. So what I would like to do, but no, things are kind of good right now. We have a really good team. We are going to start on a process of like teaching how to use different podcaster, and it's a way that you can go ahead and go to like 10 if you want to learn it. What you have to do, if you like to learn like some of the stuff that we do, all you have to do is just text me. Just text me. Don't call me. Text me, because then I'll put you in our database and my team will get through to you. The number is 707. Figure this out. We're not a good match. 707-330. Yeah. By the way, how's it a fast track? All right, so let me tell you. I'm going to tell you one story that's kind of dear to my heart that I think is kind of cool that I experienced right before the whole lockdown. So I had 2 kids. We were talking about this, and those girls are great. And so, as I said, in 2006, I was the smartest guy in the world. I owned a half a dozen houses. I was making $400,000 a year, right months. I was just living high on the hog, and I was really, really smart. Yeah, and then 2000, I for Christmas, and at this point, my wife had to actually go 2 and 20. Right now, we're 7 and 5, that type of thing, and they get along like badgers and rattlesnakes, type of thing. So I was in my bench seat Mazda truck driving down from Northern California off of Apache Junction Boulevard, which is 10 miles outside of Phoenix, Arizona, with 2 kids fighting the entire way. And I'm not saying I beat my kids, but I know what handed to Mr. Fist. I mean, it was just too much. It was like 20 hours in the cars with these kids. So we went down there to my brother-in-law's house, and my in-laws were down there in Cucamonga and Lake Drive. True story. I got stuck behind Hoover Dam for 20 hours. Shut the car off. A fighting 5-year-old, 7-year-old, dead bro. My checking account, right? All that was gone. My wife was like flying back. I'm having a nervous breakdown. My kids are fighting, and I'm behind Hoover Dam on New Year's Eve. And I found myself on Tropicana Boulevard. And I was like, honestly, like this is like losing my shit completely. So I couldn't. So I got there, I called my wife up, and I said, hey, did you make it home okay? She goes, yeah, but I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh, boy, this is really bad. It's really bad. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I got myself a double shot of Jack Daniels, got my kids a piece of pizza, and I went and called my processor. I don't know if you know these. It was First Party Financial, was the largest brokerage at the time. I'm like, well, you know what? I do know how to sell. If I'm up against a wall, I know how to make this shit work. And I got fat and lazy, is what it really. The next year and a half is I really focused on my business, and I kicked ass. I'll tell you this right now, in 2009, I made more money in 2009 than I had a daughter who was coming. Funny thing is, here, right? And then I'm like, I wasn't coming here. Me and my family, we're like, screw it, we're gonna hit the road. And I hit the road. 13-year-old daughter sleeping next to me in the car, riding the same thing 13 years after, the one who motivated me. The point is this. You guys have the answers in front of you, and let's just do it right now, and let's be like Emerson said, the great transcendentalist, let's just be unencumbered with all of today's nonsense, people around you and those that you can affect, because the alternative sucks. I mean, let's do it, right? So, for those of you who watch my show, love it, thing that we do that like influences you in a positive way, I think that's a really cool thing. And by the way, I'm totally influenced by you guys, so thank you so much.
That's a picture, because if you don't, I'm never going to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming out. We appreciate you all. The board does. Everyone that was past presidents understands this. Without you folks, why not? Yes, even you two that never show up.